All right, so the latest question that we have here is from Windridge, Chris at Windridge. Um, and essentially, the question is it's going to be more visual, it's kind of hard to explain, but they were building out a page, and this menu system that's here is on the left with the content being pushed down, as opposed to it looking like this, where the menu system is on the left and the content is writing on the side of it. This one is going to be a little bit difficult to explain. I'm going to try and make it easy to explain, to understand. And the reason it's difficult to explain is because you have to visualize in your head what's actually going on in the background without knowing code. And so I'll try to make it really, really easy. So yes, essentially try to make this page on here. Right, so if you scroll down, you got some of your content down here, and yeah, that's what we're trying to work with. So let's go ahead and look at this. And usually the reason I have this over here is because I like to look at the main site or your live site in a normal browser, and then I'll use incognito mode over here so that it's easy to just look at and refresh and see exactly what I'm doing here as opposed to in the other window. So with that said, let's dive right into it. So we're in the dashboard. First thing we're going to look at is you're going to notice that you have Elementor, which is a page builder. That's the first thing that really sets me off right there. The next thing I wanted to look at was the version of WordPress that you're running. The version of WordPress that you're running is 5.1.1, which uses Gutenberg. And I thought Gutenberg might be the problem because I'm not a huge fan of Gutenberg, but it does change how your page, your editor looks or works out to be. So let's take a look at that really, really quick. And so there's Gutenberg. And I'll go ahead and turn this off and explain exactly why I turned it off, because I added this in just for testing purposes. But let's go ahead and look at a page. And so we have your About page here. And this looks like this because of Gutenberg. It's kind of weird, and it removed or changed the interface a bit. It made it... I guess they tried to streamline it or simplify it down, have you focus on just the content. But with that said, in here it says edit with Elementor. Now it's a little bit easier to see maybe in the old version, but you can still see it here. But if you were to click on Elementor, it will allow you to edit the page. So the About page is currently built in Elementor, which is fine. But that's kind of where you're running into, because if you want it to look like the programs page, I'll show you exactly what you're going to see over there. So let's go ahead and get back into the site. And it'll tell you right here that it's made with Elementor. If you go back to the WordPress editor, it's going to break. It's not going to look right. So this is the reason I added that plugin in. Let me show you what that plugin does. So if we go to plugins, we activate the classic editor, it disables Gutenberg. And we'll go over here. And this is going to look like old school WordPress, which is, fine by me. It works, and, just I prefer this kind of view because it gives me everything I need to see to work with. So go back here, and you can notice that it's gonna break. It's definitely not what we want. So let's go ahead. The next step that I would then take from here is I would say to myself, okay, well, what was programs built in? So let's go to pages. We're gonna move this over here, but let's go ahead and grab programs and take a quick look. See? No Elementor. This was built in the visual text module, not in Elementor. So the very next thing I look at, and basically what this does is it kind of relieves me that it's not Gutenberg, it's not your theme, it is definitely how it's built, which is good. That means that this is not something that code needs to be modified or created or anything like that in order to fix it. But what we do need to do is examine the two, and you'll see something kind of standing out. If you're a developer, you probably would have seen it already, going back and forth. You have a div class. More than a div class, you have something that is structuring it and telling it that there's columns. Whereas over here, it's not. It's just not doing that. So let's go ahead and hop out of this. And this would have told you that it's built in Elementor. So that's kind of what you're running into. All your pages are being made in different ways. So what I would then do from here is I would create a new page. I'm going to call it about. And let's try, there's a couple of different solutions. And that's the thing about this. Any of the answers that I give you here is not the only answer. There are multiple answers. There are multiple solutions that you can have to fixing any problem you have when it comes to web development or web design, or anything having to deal with this realm, this industry. There's more than one answer. It's just some answers a little bit more easier. Some of them are, even though harder, they're the best solutions to go with. But with that said, we're going to go over to here. And yes, even though it's built with Elementor, I don't want to use Elementor. I want to use just the code that's in here. I want to grab just what's in here. So we're going to do a Control A or a copy and paste. Here's what I did essentially. Select all and then copy. Bring that over here. Make sure you're in text because you can't do it in visual. It'll translate in visual. So we'll put that over there. Now we'll just take this back to normal. I accidentally clicked updates and that is annoying. So we'll go back to Elementor for that page and you notice everything's still fine. So it's called about. And let's take a look. Let's take a look in here. So end of employees is there. Okay. So now that we have it coded here, this is going to look like this. So let's just say for the sake of messing around with this, let's publish it and see what it looks like. Now it's not going to replace what you currently have. When you have same labeled pages, they're just going to start adding numeric numbers to it and numerically list them. So you have about 2, about 3, about 4. So with that said, your page is fine. Don't worry about that. Let's go ahead and take a look at this site. And okay, we're still running into the same problem. Same set of problems. But we now know that there is something missing to what is in here. So go back to text. Go here. And I don't know why they did this. This is, I'm betting there are, if there's any developers watching this, they're probably screaming their heads off, figuring out, okay, why does it say 3 columns, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Trust me, I understand. So then we'll just go ahead and close this div tag, and then we'll update. Go here. Boom, it moves up because we created a division area. We created another area for this to be in and designated that it's only going to be a certain size and it's going to be here, and then the rest of the content is going to be over here. Now you could use a plugin like something that would give you columnization and do a little bit more easily, but that's not the point. We created in here. So if we just made this 2 columns, which is probably what I've done, I don't know why whoever built this put it like that, but do it like that. Refresh this page, and boom, it's still fine. So you could do this and continue building out the page and just format as needed. Or what you could do is work with Elementor that you have. So here's what we're going to do. So with Elementor, I don't use Elementor a lot. I'm not a fan of it. It's nice as a WYSIWYG builder. I do prefer WP Bakery, or otherwise known as Visual Composer. But that's just me. And honestly, if I'm building out a site really, really quickly, it's not too heavily complicated. Yeah, trust me, that is my go-to plugin for most of the sites that I'll build. But with that said, you have this in here. And really take a very, very good look at all the tools that you're using and all the options within it. If you look really closely, you see this icon here. And you can create columns here. and be able to structure it the way you want. And so what I would suggest doing, and there's multiple ways of doing it. You could do it the way that I would probably go about doing, just simply because I'm a little bit more I guess I try to be a little bit more precise. I like to have a lot more control over what I'm doing. With this Elementor, it doesn't feel like that, but that's just me. And Elementor does have its upside speed, so you can use it and do it this way. So you have your sections, and your sections is what will give you your columns, because that's what you have to separate. If you put this content here, it's just going to run on and on and on and on and on. And that's part of the problem that you're running into, is that it's running into each other. They don't know that they need to be separated from each other. At least this needs to be separated from each other. So here, let me see if I can explain this. We're going to grab this, and we're going to put this intersection here. Now you notice those icons, they showed columns. Boom. So here we go. We now have this. Now you're like, okay, Chris, what do I do with that? Sure, no problem. I got you. I'm going to go over here. We're inside of here editing this content. We're going to grab the text for it. And you're just simply going to grab. Sorry, I'm trying to grab it without grabbing it. You're going to take this. We're going to copy it for now. We're not going to go over here and do anything crazy with it just yet. And grab a text editor. We're going to put it over here. We're now going to go back over here. We're going to get rid of this madness. Put this here, like the visual. And voila, now we have it both places, but we now have it columnized for here. So here's what we're going to do with this part. We're going to edit here. We're going to grab everything from our foundation. We're going to go back to this column over here. And part of the problem that we're going to run into is that how it's formatted or how it's laid out. See, on the programs page, it looks like it's just going to be here, and it's what they call columnized. So any content here and going down would be in one long column. Okay, so you have to visualize. We have a column here, and long as we don't do anything else to cause any blending, this is going to go all the way down, and this is going to all the way down. So that said, we're going to come over here and grab a text editor and put that there. Go back to text. Grab that. Put that there. And then, now you're like, Chris, oh my God, oh, this is so scrunched together. That's the beauty of having columns. You can designate how wide they are. So I imagine this is going to be a 1/4 size versus a 3/4 size. So we're going to put that and pull it over here. Or if you want to be a little bit more precise, like I would want to be, we'll just click edit for this one. And because it's 0 to 100, you're going to want a 1/4. So this one should be 25. And this should be 75 by default. Bingo. And now, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and update it. And let's go have a look at it on the live site. Now, of course, I'm going to undo this because we don't want the page to remain like this, but you have your sidebar here, and it's not really a sidebar, but we can get into that in a different topic. I would prefer like this kind of a menu to be in a sidebar, but we have a column here, and we have a column here, and everything looks really, really well set up over here, okay? So I imagine this is the amount of content, so we're just going to pull this over and take a look. And so if we were trying to match, like, this is that, see, kind of matches the width of it. Boom, so you got down to here. yeah, and that's pretty much about it. So there's multiple ways of handling this. If you want to do it through Elementor, you could do it that way. If you wanted to create a separate page and kind of redo it and control it through the text module, you can totally do that. There's nothing wrong with that at all whatsoever. You can use a plugin to allow yourself to use a something like a short code like this that would help you create your column. Totally up to you, but this might be a little bit more simpler for you. But yeah, it really depends on your comfortability level, but you have the instructions on how to do this, and really it's that simple. And create other pages if you have to, just like I did here. Create a secondary page if you have to, and toy around with it. Toy around with what options you have, and long as it's not put in the menu system, it's not going to be visible to the public unless somebody in the public knows that you have an About To page and they have to type it in just like this. So with that said, I hope I answered your question. You have two ways of going about it. This is a little bit more complex, but gives you more precision with control over it. Or you could do it this way, which you have a fair amount of control, but it's definitely easier to do. It's like that. It's that WYSIWYG, that what you see is what you get. Makes it very, very easy. You don't have to remember any short codes or any of this madness in here and going back and forth. It definitely saves you time. So once again, make sure you understand your tools. Go in here and toy around with it, and you can totally take control of your site. It's the intersection here, because the icon looks exactly like columns. This looks like a full column. This looks like two columns. You throw this over here. You can put a section within a section. You can put a section beneath a section, so you can keep them separated. If you had, the employee section below or anything like that, you can totally do that, and it works just fine. But if you have any further questions, reach out to me. Thank you very much. Have a good one.